It was one of those cold, misty mornings where everything felt wrong. The fog outside was thick, curling around the odd house like a living thing. I stood by the window, watching as the fog crept closer, inch by inch, swallowing the trees and the road beyond. Anya was downstairs, but I could hear her pacing. She always paced when she was nervous. "Ravi, get down here," she yelled up the stairs, her voice tight with worry. I didn't need any more convincing. Something about this fog felt alive, like it was waiting for us to make a move. I took the stairs 2 at a time, finding Anya in the kitchen, staring out into the yard. "You see that?" she asked, not looking at me. I followed her gaze and froze. The fog had reached the edge of the garden, but now, there were shapes moving inside it. They weren't human, not fully. Twisted, shifting figures, their outlines blurring with the mist. "What are those?" I whispered. "Whatever they are, they're getting closer," Anya said, backing away from the window. "And they're not stopping." The shapes moved closer, their forms flickering in and out of view. There was something else too, something almost whispering. A low, constant sound, like voices carried on the wind. But it wasn't just noise, it was words, old and strange, a language I didn't recognize, but felt deep in my bones. "They're whispering," Anya said, her face pale. "I don't like this, Ravi. Something's in the fog, and it's coming for us." I grabbed Anya's arm, pulling her away from the window. "We need to call Bhairava now." But before we could summon him, the front door rattled, followed by a heavy knock. We both froze. No one ever came out this far, especially not in the middle of a fog this thick. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, as if whoever or whatever was on the other side couldn't wait any longer. I looked at Anya, and she shook her head. "Don't even think about it." "I wasn't planning to," I said, my voice a little shakier than I'd have liked. But as soon as the knocking stopped, the front door slowly creaked open on its own. That's when the fog poured in. It slithered through the cracks, spilling into the hallway, coiling around our legs like smoke. The whispering grew louder, and the shapes, those dark, twisted figures, started pushing into the house. They weren't quite solid, more like shadows mixed with the mist, but they were moving toward us, fast. Before I could react, one of them lunged, and Anya screamed, throwing up her hands. Shadows erupted from her fingers, forming a barrier between us and the fog. The creature hit the barrier and recoiled, hissing in that strange, ancient language. "They don't like the shadows," she said, her voice trembling but determined. "That's good news," I said, my heart racing. "Bad news is there's a lot more of them." Suddenly, the room darkened, and Kala Bhairava stepped out of the shadows, his form looming large in the doorway. His eyes glowed with intensity, more serious than I'd ever seen them. "The fog is not natural," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "It carries the whispering ones, ancient spirits that feed on the minds of the living. They confuse, control, and destroy through their whispers." "What do they want?" Anya asked, still holding the barrier in place as the figure circled. "They want to consume your thoughts, your memories," Bhairava explained. "They thrive on confusion, twisting reality until nothing makes sense. If you let them in, they will take over, turning you into one of them." I swallowed hard. "How do we stop them?" Bhairava raised his trident, pointing it at the swirling fog. "You must stay grounded in what is real. Their power lies in illusion. They twist the mind, making you doubt what you know. Anya, your shadows will keep them at bay for now, but you, Ravi, must find their weakness. You have the ability to hear through their lies. Use it." The fog pressed harder against Anya's shadow barrier, the figures growing more solid with every passing second. The whispering increased, 100 voices all speaking at once, filling my mind with doubts, questions. I could feel it working, trying to pull me under, making me question what was real. My vision blurred, the room around me warping as if the house itself was being swallowed by the mist. "Stay with me, Ravi," Anya shouted, her voice strained from holding the barrier. "Don't listen to them." I tried to focus, but the whispers were so loud. They told me things I didn't want to hear, made me think about everything I feared. I could feel myself slipping, my mind clouding over. But then, through the chaos, I remembered what Bhairava said. Their power lies in illusion. Stay grounded in what is real. I took a deep breath and focused on the one thing I knew for sure. Anya was real. The house was real. The fog? That was the lie. The more I concentrated on that truth, the clearer everything became. The whispers, once overwhelming, started to fade, like turning down the volume on a radio. "They're lying," I yelled to Anya. "Don't let them into your head. They're trying to twist what's real." Anya nodded, her face set in determination. I could see her focusing too, grounding herself in reality as the figures clawed at her shadow shield. The more we pushed back mentally, the weaker the fog became. The figures flickered, their forms starting to break apart. Bhairava's presence grew stronger as we fought back. He stepped forward, his trident glowing with a fierce light. With a swift motion, he slammed the trident into the ground, sending a shockwave through the house. The fog recoiled, pulling back from the force of his power. The figures screeched, their forms dissolving as Bhairava's energy cut through the mist. Now, Bhairava commanded, "End them!" Anya and I moved as one. She threw her shadows forward, wrapping them around the remaining figures, while I focused on their whispers, cutting through the noise with the truth. The fog shrieked one last time before it exploded outward, the whispering ones dissolving into nothingness. The house fell silent. The fog outside began to lift, revealing the familiar trees and garden, as if the eerie presence had never been there. I leaned against the wall, catching my breath. Anya collapsed next to me, exhausted but alive. Bhairava nodded, satisfied with our victory. "You have learned well," he said. "The mind is the greatest battlefield. Always remember what is real, and no illusion can conquer you." He disappeared back into the shadows, leaving us alone once again. I looked over at Anya, who gave me a tired smile. "So," she said, "next time we see fog, we're staying inside, right?" I grinned. "Absolutely.